At their first romantic dinner, Claire Thompson felt like she had stepped into a dream. The dim lighting of the grand willow room cast a warm glow across the tables, and soft classical music hummed through the air. Across from her, her husband, Nathan Wells, sat with an effortless charm, his hand resting lightly on hers. Only 3 weeks had passed since their intimate courthouse wedding, and every moment with him still felt like discovering a secret the world had kept just for her. "Why are you smiling like that?" Nathan asked, a playful glint in his eye. "I'm just looking at you and realizing how lucky I am," Claire replied, her voice soft, almost trembling with happiness. Nathan chuckled, squeezing her hand. "The lucky one is me. Finding someone like you now, it's a miracle." Claire had spent the last 2 years alone after losing her parents. Her life had been full of work at her boutique flower shop, her only companions the plants she cared for and the small group of loyal customers who brightened her days. Nathan had entered her life unexpectedly, buying a simple bouquet for his mother and leaving weeks later with her heart. He courted her with thoughtfulness, daisies instead of roses, listening instead of talking. He seemed steady, genuine, everything she had been quietly longing for. Just then, Nathan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, a faint shadow of irritation crossing his features. "Forgive me, love," he said, standing. "It's work. I'll be in the lobby for a moment, it's quieter there. Go ahead and order dessert. Your favorite, the raspberries." He kissed her forehead and hurried away. Claire watched him leave, smiling to herself. Everything felt perfect. But then her gaze drifted to the next table, where an elderly woman sat alone, stirring her tea slowly. The woman's eyes were fixed on Claire, intense and urgent. For a moment, Claire thought she recognized her, an older customer from her shop who always bought orange daisies. The woman suddenly leaned forward. "Listen to me," she whispered, trembling. "Call a cab. Go now. Through the window in the restroom. He's dangerous. I barely escaped myself." She pressed a thick wad of cash into Claire's hand. "Your husband, my daughter, she's gone. Do you understand?" Claire froze, her mind spinning. I think you have the wrong person," she stammered. "No. You don't have time. Run," the woman gasped before shuffling hurriedly toward the exit. Claire clutched the money, her heart hammering. She looked up and saw 2 large men standing near the entrance, scanning the room. Their gaze locked onto her. Panic surged. She dashed toward the restroom, knocking over a chair, slammed the door behind her, and leaned against it, trying to breathe. Her phone clattered to the floor as she fumbled to call a cab. The app showed a car arriving in 3 minutes. She climbed onto the vanity to check the small frosted window. Metal bars blocked any escape. She would have to use the main door. Just as she reached for the handle, a figure appeared in the doorway, Victor Wells, the restaurant manager. Once warm and courteous, his expression was now icy. "I need to get out," Claire said, trying to sidestep him. "I'm afraid you'll have to wait," he said calmly. From behind him, a voice chilled her to the bone, "Nathan." "It's all right, Victor. Claire's just a little flustered. I'll take care of her myself." Claire's pulse raced as she tugged at the handle, locked. The calm, familiar voice of the man she trusted so completely had become a harbinger of terror. Nathan Wells, the man she loved, was a stranger. Every warm word, every tender gesture, a lie. 3 minutes until the cab arrived. 3 minutes to escape. If you love real emotional stories, hit subscribe, we post one every day. The reality hit Claire Thompson like a punch to the chest. The locked restroom door, the 2 bald men lurking in the dining room, the sheer panic in the old woman's eyes, it wasn't a nightmare she could wake from. Her breath came in sharp, shallow bursts as she scanned the small, tiled room. The gilded faucets gleamed under the harsh lights, and the mirror reflected a pale, trembling woman she barely recognized. This wasn't her. Claire, the composed, practical florist who managed every delicate bloom and every demanding customer with grace, was not meant for situations like this. That was for bad TV dramas, not real life. She had to think. The window was barred, the door locked. Screaming for help would only play into their hands. Victor Wells, the manager, would explain it away, and the patrons would see her as hysterical, allowing those two men to whisk her off somewhere she didn't want to imagine. She needed leverage. Then her eyes fell on the fire alarm on the wall, a small red box with a black button under glass. Her hesitation vanished. This was her chance. Claire snatched her purse, heavy with a metal clasp, and swung it at the glass. Crack. Her heart leapt. Nathan's voice pierced from outside the door. Stop. You're making this difficult. Difficult? She was trapped, and he worried about convenience. Fueled by anger, she struck again and again until the glass shattered. Without hesitation, she pressed the button. A deafening siren exploded through the room, bouncing off the tiles and rattling her ears. Behind the door, curses and shouting erupted. What the hell? Victor bellowed. Nathan's voice, calm and cold, tried to cut through the noise. It's fine, it's a false alarm. But no one listened. Footsteps and screams echoed in the corridor, panic spreading like wildfire. Smoke, bitter and acrid, began to drift through the vents, likely from the kitchen. For Claire, it was a blessing. The chaos confirmed her alarm was real. Open this door, someone shouted at Victor. The key turned. The door swung open, and Claire shoved past Victor, bursting into the pandemonium. Tables overturned, guests screamed, and a smoky haze clung to the ceiling. Her eyes locked on Nathan for an instant. No warmth, no remorse, only cold calculation. He moved toward her, but it was too late. She pushed through the crowd, down the stairs, and into the crisp night air. She ran, oblivious to where she was going, until she dared to stop 1 block away. Leaning against a brick wall, she gasped and sobbed, her phone buzzing with the cab service. A white Ford Focus waited a short distance away. Jumping into the back seat, she barely registered the driver's concern. Drive, she gasped. To my apartment. Fast. She watched the streets blur past, her mind reeling. Nathan Wells, the man she trusted, had been a perfect predator. The old woman's warning echoed, his daughter was gone, taken, dead perhaps. At her apartment, she handed the cab driver cash and Elsa's wad, freezing at the door. This place, filled with memories, was her last safe ground. Once inside, the scent of soil and flowers welcomed her, but it offered little comfort. Trembling, she booted up her old laptop, desperate to secure her finances. Every attempt to transfer funds failed. Her accounts had been frozen. Nathan had thought of everything, moving before she even suspected. Fear tightened around her like a vice. She couldn't stay. She packed the cash and laptop, locked the shop behind her, and hailed another cab, careful to avoid being seen. As the familiar streets passed, memories of Nathan's gestures, the coffee, the wallpapering, the laughs, turned poisonous. Every smile, every touch, every warm word had been a calculated lie. The cab pulled onto her quiet street. She knew this apartment was safe, for now. Every detail outside and inside, every tree, every doorframe, every familiar corner, felt painfully real. Yet it was the only sanctuary left. Claire Thompson slammed the cab door shut without waiting for the driver to say a word. Her chest heaved, but the panic was now mixed with determination. She would reach her apartment, bolt the door, and finally feel safe. Tomorrow she would figure out the rest. She raced up the stairs to her third-floor unit, reaching the familiar brown full-leather door marked 27. Fingers fumbling, she fished out the keys from her bag. One fell to the steps with a loud clang, echoing through the empty stairwell. She knelt to grab it, inserted it into the lock, but it stopped halfway. Something blocked it. She tried the second lock. Same result. Her chest tightened as fear surged back. Someone had tampered with her locks. She knocked, softly at first, then louder. Open up. Please. I live here. Silence. She pounded harder, slamming fists and feet against the door. A crack appeared on the opposite landing. Her neighbor, Meredith Lane, peeked out. Claire. What's happening? The locks, they won't open. Claire gasped. Then the door creaked. But it wasn't Nathan or the police. A woman in her 50s, hair tied messily, faded bathrobe and worn slippers, blocked the doorway. The aroma of frying food drifted from inside. What are you screaming about? She asked bluntly. It's late. Don't you think? Claire froze. I live here, she stammered. The woman laughed. I rent here. And you are. Other doors opened. Curious neighbors emerged. And from below, footsteps approached, Nathan and his mother, Jacqueline Wells. Nathan's voice, smooth and controlled, cut through the stairwell. Please excuse the commotion. Claire is just a little overwhelmed. Jacqueline's hand, cold as ice, touched Claire's arm. Come with us, dear. You'll rest. Everything will be fine. We're just trying to help. Claire's blood ran cold. Elsa Miller's warning from the restaurant replayed in her mind, my daughter married him. She's not alive anymore. She yanked free and bolted down the stairs, leaping steps, clinging to the railing, ignoring the cries behind her. The heavy front door slammed behind her as she burst into the chilly night. She ran blindly, tears blurring the drizzle, lungs screaming. Several blocks later, she collapsed into a shadowed alley. Rain slicked her hair and soaked her clothes. She drew Elsa's cash from her bag, the only resource left, and pulled out her phone, searching frantically for a safe place. A cheap hostel on the edge of downtown appeared. The place was grim, smelling of damp and bleach. A sleepy clerk accepted the money, handed her a key to a tiny room with a rickety iron bed and a nightstand. The window faced a blank wall, but it didn't matter. The door locked. She was alone, alive, and for the first time that night, safe. Claire sank onto the bed, trembling, rain dripping from her hair. She scrolled through her contacts, unsure who to call. How could she explain that Nathan Wells had deceived her, stolen her home, and nearly destroyed her life? Even her friends, even her boss, might think she'd lost her mind. But she would survive. She had to. Claire Thompson's finger froze over a name in her phone, Elsa Miller. Gerber Elsa. She had saved it months ago when Elsa had called to order a birthday bouquet for a neighbor. The only person who had known the truth, the only one who had tried to warn her. She pressed call, heart hammering. What if Elsa didn't answer? What if she had changed her mind? After several rings, a soft, trembling voice picked up. Hello? Elsa, it's Claire, from the flower shop, she said, her voice cracking. A long pause. Then, Claire. Thank God, you're alive. Where are you? Are you safe? No, Claire choked out. I'm not safe at all. She told Elsa everything, the frozen accounts, the tampered locks, the woman in the bathrobe, the notarized contract with her own signature. Elsa listened quietly, letting her pour out the story. When Claire finished, Elsa's voice was firm, decisive. Give me the address. I'm coming. 40 minutes later, a gentle knock on the hostel door. Elsa entered, scanned the tiny, dim room, and without a word wrapped Claire in a hug. Warmth and care radiated from that embrace, more than Claire had ever received from Nathan Wells. "Come with me," Elsa said. "You don't belong here." Her apartment was small but welcoming. The scent of herbs and old books filled the air. Photos adorned the walls, her daughter Vera, in braids, graduation gowns, and smiling with bouquets of orange gerberas. "That's Vera," Elsa said softly. She led Claire to the kitchen, brewed tea, offered jam. Claire sat at the table, eyes fixed on the portraits. Elsa began quietly. "She loved your shop. You were the only florist whose flowers were perfect. That's why I recognized you immediately. Not you, me, but I knew you were next." She recounted Vera's story, how Nathan had appeared charming and attentive, asked her to marry him, persuaded her to transfer her apartment after a month, and then claimed Vera had drowned in a boating accident. The police deemed it an accident, but Elsa had never believed it. She had started tracking Nathan, confirming the pattern, and when she saw Claire, she knew she had to act. "And it's not just him," Elsa continued. "His mother, Jacqueline Wells, runs the show. Publicly, she's respected, charitable, a figure of authority. Privately, she manipulates the system. The housing authority, the real estate records, notarized forms, they're all tools. She can make anything look legitimate." Claire listened, stunned. Every detail suddenly fit: the restaurant manager's behavior, the calm authority of Jacqueline, the notarized contract Nathan had shown her. This is a perfect crime," she whispered. Elsa nodded. "Exactly. Power, reputation, control. Nathan is the charming mask. He selects women with property, gains trust, then it's all method. A system." Claire's despair transformed into cold, sharp anger. She had been deceived, humiliated, robbed, and forced out of her own life. "We need proof," she said. "Something they can't deny." Elsa shook her head. "They have the documents. They control everything." Claire's mind raced. Only one person could help, Valerie Jenkins, her longtime assistant at the shop. Honest, loyal, and outside Nathan's reach. If anyone could help uncover a clue, it was Val. "I need to meet Val," Claire said. "It's risky," Elsa warned. "They could be watching." "I'll be careful," Claire promised. She called Val, arranged a discreet meeting in a park behind the market. Val agreed immediately. Dressed in Elsa's old coat and scarf, Claire left the hostel, detoring past her flower shop. She froze. A small crowd had gathered outside, a car with a newspaper logo parked nearby. A photographer snapped pictures. In the center, Jacqueline Wells, immaculate in a tailored suit, addressed a young journalist. "We at the Housing Authority work closely with local businesses to support entrepreneurs," she said, presenting herself as caring and benevolent. Claire's stomach churned. Every lie she had endured, every theft and betrayal, was being spun publicly as benevolence. Claire Thompson had come back to her shop only to witness the spectacle of her disgrace on display. The sheer hypocrisy made her stomach twist. And then Jacqueline Wells, seemingly sensing her gaze, looked straight at her from across the small crowd. Her eyes narrowed for a moment, then a bright, radiant smile spread across her face. "Claire. My dear, thank goodness." Jacqueline called loudly, forcing her way through the gathering. Claire froze, paralyzed. It was far too late to escape. Jacqueline reached her, gripped Claire's hands like iron, and pivoted her toward the journalist and photographer. "Here she is, our runaway," Jacqueline announced, her voice trembling with feigned relief. "Claire, please come home. Stop listening to that grieving old woman. Nathan has forgiven you everything. He's not angry about the money. We understand, it was stress. We only want to help." In one swift, calculated motion, Jacqueline painted Claire as a thief and an unstable woman, influenced by a deluded old neighbor. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Cameras clicked. Reporters scribbled notes. Peter Walsh, the flower shop owner, appeared at the doorway. His face flushed red with anger. "Claire! What are you doing here? A scandal in front of my shop. Dragging my name through the mud." He grabbed her shoulder and shoved her aside, away from the cameras. "You're fired. Never come back. Understand?" Claire staggered, humiliated and stripped of everything: home, money, dignity, and now her livelihood. Passers-by looked on with pity and disdain. She was pushed further down the street, and at that moment, Valerie Jenkins, pale and tense, stepped forward. In a swift, unobtrusive motion, she pressed something cold and metallic into Claire's palm and squeezed her fingers closed. "I'm so sorry," Val whispered. "My cousin cleans at the housing authority. She gave me this, just in case. Jacqueline is paranoid. This is your only chance. Don't tell anyone where it came from." Claire opened her hand. A simple, cold office key rested there. The weight of it felt like the madness of their plan pressed into her palm. She walked away from the scene, ignoring the world, Val's whispered warning echoing in her ears: "Gray ledger, don't tell anyone." An hour later, she arrived at Elsa Miller's apartment, navigating dark alleys and back streets like a fugitive. Inside, she dropped into a chair, laying the key on the table. Elsa studied it, then Claire's pale, exhausted face. "It's a key," Claire rasped. She recounted the chaos outside the shop, the false accusations, the firing, and Val's desperate whisper. Elsa weighed the key in her hand, determination flashing in her eyes. "The gray ledger," she murmured. "If it exists, that's our only proof. Every name, date, document we need, all in one place. But how do we get it?" "They won't let us in," Claire said. "We do it at night," Elsa replied firmly. Claire recoiled. "Break into the housing authority at night? That's insane. They'll catch us." Elsa leaned forward. "What more could they take from you? Your home, your money, your reputation, my daughter. We have nothing left. This key is our last card. If we don't use it tonight, it could be too late." Claire nodded, icy resolve settling over her. They spent the day planning, studying a detailed map of the massive, gray 1950s building. Val's cousin had confirmed a little-known service entrance, only used by staff during late-night cleaning. By 11 p.m., the city was silent. Dressed in dark clothing, Claire carried the key like a shard of ice in her pocket. They circled the building and found the inconspicuous metal door in the courtyard, shadowed by dumpsters. 2 cleaners arrived, propped the door open with a brick, then left. It was their moment. Inside, dim corridors reeked of disinfectant. Floor polish hummed distantly. Tiptoeing, they passed endless doors labeled legal affairs, archives, privatization. Jacqueline Wells' office was on the 3rd floor, a pristine, magazine-perfect sanctuary of polished wood, leather, and meticulously stacked papers. "Search," Elsa whispered. Claire dug through drawers, Elsa scanned shelves, but nothing. 20 minutes passed. Despair began to creep in. Then Claire's trained florist's eye caught something, a photo on the wall, slightly crooked amid Jacqueline's awards and plaques. She pulled it, and a faint click echoed. The frame was a hidden door. Inside, a compact safe with a numbered dial waited. Elsa's breath caught. Claire examined the plaques nearby. One bore the founding year of the Housing Authority, 1955. A significant number Jacqueline could never forget. Carefully, she dialed 1-9-5-5. A click, a handle lifted, and the safe opened. Inside lay a thick, gray ledger with a sturdy cover, waiting on the single shelf. Claire placed it on the table, hands trembling, the last key to unraveling everything. Claire Thompson opened the ledger and froze. This wasn't just evidence, it was a verdict. Every page was methodically organized: name, property address, perpetrator, status, notes. In the perpetrator column, one name repeated like a curse: Wells E.J. The first entry, second, third, each one marked a different apartment. Claire's eyes caught one familiar address: the tiny studio of Vera Miller, Elsa's daughter. In the notes column, a few cold words: accident. Property secured. Her hands shook as she flipped through the following entries: 4th, 5th, 6th, all 8 in total. 8 apartments. 8 victims. 8 fates, vanished without a trace: overdose, traffic accident. Each entry came with certified copies, stamped and signed by the housing authority. The last entry, number 8, was hers. Claire L., her parents' apartment. Status, in progress. The words, emotionless and neat, sent a shiver down her spine. She wasn't a person. She was a task, a line on a list, her life merely in progress. Elsa leaned over, her face pale, eyes locking onto Vera's entry. A stifled sob escaped her chest. She swayed, and Claire had to steady her. "Easy, Elsa, breathe," Claire whispered, though the floor seemed to shift beneath her own feet. "We found it. This is it. We have to act fast." Claire grabbed her cracked smartphone. The battery was nearly dead, but the camera still worked. Page by page, she photographed the ledger, hands trembling so badly some images blurred. Each click rang deafeningly in the silent office. Elsa hovered, her eyes fixed on the book where the lives of 8 innocents were catalogued. "Faster, faster," Elsa urged. Halfway through, a sound froze them both. Footsteps, heavy, confident, not a cleaner's shuffle. They were coming straight toward them. Claire lunged to push the ledger back into the safe, but it was too late. The key turned. The door swung open. Elias stood there, stripped of charm and polish, wearing a simple black turtleneck and jeans. He looked far more dangerous now, raw and predatory. Behind him, Val's face appeared, tears streaking her cheeks, lips trembling. "I'm sorry, Claire," she sobbed. "They found out about my cousin. I didn't mean to." Elias shoved her aside roughly. She collapsed to her knees, crying. Elias' gaze swept the room: Elsa, Claire, the open safe, the ledger. His mask fell away. Only fury remained. "You two ruined everything," he hissed. He lunged at Claire, the phone in her hand, the only proof. He grabbed her wrist, twisted it painfully. The phone skittered across the floor. His other hand gripped her hair. "You'll regret being born." Then, the unexpected happened. Elsa, frail but furious, grabbed the heavy glass water carafe and slammed it onto Elias' head. The impact was brutal. He staggered, releasing Claire. "Run!" Elsa screamed, dragging Claire toward the exit. Claire snatched the phone from the floor and sprinted, past sobbing Val, past the echoing shouts of security. They raced down the stairs, pounding steps following close behind. At the main exit, heavy chains and a padlock blocked the doors. Panic surged. "This way!" Elsa gasped, shoving Claire toward a small door under the stairs labeled utility closet. Inside, it was cramped and smelled of damp chemicals. "What now?" Claire whispered, breathless. Elsa's eyes locked on hers, cold and determined. "Now, you follow my instructions. They're after the ledger and witnesses. You are the proof. Only you." She shoved Claire into the closet, then positioned herself between the approaching guards and the door. "No. Claire screamed. Tomorrow at noon, Elsa said, her voice steady, Civic Center Auditorium. His mother receives an award. Go there. Show them everything on that phone. I'm buying you time. She slammed the closet door, turning the lock. Claire pounded on it, shouting Elsa's name, but all she heard were the approaching footsteps and Elias' furious commands. Hours passed. Alone on the cold floor, she didn't cry. Grief had burned out, replaced with icy determination. Elsa's words echoed, go there. Show everyone. It wasn't just advice, it was a legacy, a final command. Claire pressed the phone to her chest. Inside it lay the lives of 8 people and the key to justice. As dawn broke, she heard cleaning staff approaching. A woman fiddled with the lock, muttering about it sticking. When the door finally creaked open, Claire slipped out, unnoticed among the morning rush of employees. She was free, but the weight of the mission remained. Elsa was likely in custody, Elias unchecked, Jacqueline Wells untouchable, ready to accept her public award. Claire didn't hesitate. She ran. Straight to the nearest coffee shop, just to plug in her phone. Battery nearly dead, proof in her hands. Time was running out. Claire Thompson's hands shook as her phone charged. She searched for details on today's ceremony. As Elsa had said, it was at the Civic Center Auditorium, starting at noon, a commemorative event for outstanding city service. The mayor would preside, and Johanna Sterling, resplendent in a bright tailored suit, would receive the award. Claire's thoughts immediately turned to the ledger. Keeping the evidence only on her fragile, nearly dead phone was far too risky. She found a nearby print shop and, with a portion of Elsa's money, had every page of the ledger printed on glossy sheets, large and clear. Every name, number, and signature was legible. She made 5 complete sets. Then came the call. Elsa had left her nephew's number in her notebook on the kitchen table. Claire dialed quickly. Hello, you don't know me, she began as a man answered. My name is Claire Thompson. I'm a friend of Elsa Miller. I don't have time for long explanations. I know what happened to Vera. I have proof. Today, at noon, the Civic Center Auditorium, there's an event. Please come. Bring Vera's largest portrait. And if you know others whose relatives disappeared after dealing with Elias Wells, call them too. They need to be there. She hung up without waiting for a response. By mid-morning, Claire arrived at the auditorium. Outside, expensive cars lined the entrance, and reporters jostled for space. Inside, the hall was packed, the orchestra tuning up, the stage framed with red velvet seats. Johanna Sterling smiled warmly to the crowd, a picture of elegance and authority. Claire, disheveled and bruised, tucked the folders of printouts into her bag. Her hair was tangled, clothes wrinkled, a bruise marring her cheek. She was the embodiment of someone pushed to the brink, but ready for her final stand. She strode down the center aisle. The orchestra faltered mid-note. Heads turned, whispers erupted. Johanna's smile froze. A security guard approached, stopping her path. Ma'am, you can't go through here, he said firmly. Claire didn't falter. 30 feet from the stage, she hesitated only a moment. Then a voice rang out. Let her pass. Claire glanced at the first row. A man in a worn mechanic's jacket stood, commanding attention. That's my father, he said calmly, his voice resolute, eyes locked on Johanna Sterling. His apartment is listed in that ledger. The hall went silent. The orchestra froze. Journalists pivoted, cameras snapping. The security guards wavered. Now, Claire had a witness. She moved forward, slow and deliberate, every step echoing. Hundreds watched the ragged woman approaching the city's most powerful figure. Johanna's voice finally cut through, grab her. remove her from the stage. But it was too late. Claire climbed the steps, seized the microphone, and faced the assembly. Her voice, amplified through the speakers, rang out. "My name is Claire Thompson. 2 weeks ago, I married this man," she nodded toward Elias Wells. "And yesterday, he and Johanna Sterling threw me out of my apartment, accusing me of theft." Gasps swept the audience. Johanna leapt from her seat. "Lies. Slander. I will sue." Claire raised a folder. "You called me a thief. A lunatic. But here," she held up the printed sheets, "is the truth. Your ledger. Your list of victims." She read slowly, deliberately. Number 1, James Harrison, born 1948, vanished 2019. Apartment inherited, sold, Elias Wells. Number 2, Samantha Green, 1977, traffic accident, property transferred, Elias Wells. Number 3, Vera Miller, 1988, drowning. Her voice faltered. At that moment, the back doors burst open. Elsa's nephew and several others carried a large framed portrait of Vera. Gasps and cries filled the hall. The ledger had a face now, tragedy made tangible. Chaos erupted. People shouted, pointed, whispered. Names were called. Connections revealed. Johanna Sterling's carefully built reputation crumbled in minutes. Even the mayor, pale and trembling, recognized the disaster unfolding on stage. Police moved quickly. Claire handed one officer a folder. "Everything's here. Names, dates, addresses, original copies on my phone," she said quietly. The officer's expression hardened as he skimmed the pages. Moments later, 2 officers approached Johanna Sterling. She struggled, shouted, waved her credentials, but it meant nothing. Handcuffs snapped around her wrists. Elias tried to resist in the aisle, snarling, but he too was subdued and escorted out. As they were led away, Johanna's gaze locked briefly on Claire. For the first time in decades, the city's most respected woman looked powerless. Claire lowered the microphone. She had done it. Justice had its voice.